I am your host, Joe Curry. Oh, by the way, where's Bonnie? And where is the Patriot Box? Well, Bonnie is celebrating her birthday, and she is on a lovely birthday getaway down in Atlantic City. As for the Patriot Box, his brother is moving and needed a carton, so he is helping out there. I am here today manning the ship, and we have some great hosts today. We got Keith Fitz here. Give Keith a round of applause. Keith, thanks so much for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
We have Mark White zooming in.
Good evening, everybody.
And we also have, and very honored to have, Robert Morris, and we also have Shane Jenkins. Thank you so much for coming
Thanks for
down.
having me.
I want to explain why they are with us today. They were part of J6. They also were incarcerated over that. They also have a try that 3 times, I talk for a living, fantastic story to tell. And I did a lot of research on you guys. It's like I'm like meeting celebrities because I've been doing a lot of research in the past couple of days. Basically, why did you go to the J6 rally?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
I would say that why I went has a lot to do with the responsibility we have as Americans to change the government if it violates our rights. We have every right to have a free and fair election, and 2020 was stolen from us. Not only was it stolen from Trump, but it was stolen from the American people. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back, actually. I went because of the pandemic. I went because of BLM riots. I went because of vaccine mandates. You name it. 2020 was terrible. But because our election was stolen, and I fought for our freedom to have those elections as a Ranger and 2nd Ranger Battalion, it's not only my responsibility, but it is my duty to replace that kind of a government. So I showed up on January 6th to protest the stolen election and do the right thing as all Americans should.
Very, very good, very good. And Shane, what was your reasons for going?
2020 was the first election that I ever had the opportunity or desire to vote in. I gave my life to Jesus Christ in December of 2016 and as I started to read the Word, I became passionate about the unborn, about God knowing us when we were in our mother's bellies, Him knowing the amount of hairs or lack of hairs on our head, that we would have. But I became passionate about that, which aligned me with conservative, right-leaning values. And so 2016, I'm watching President Trump get persecuted and all that from the beginning of his run for president and all that. And I voted in 2020 to support President Trump. Then I watched him steal the election. And he sent out that fateful tweet in mid-December. I think he said, come to D.C., join the Stop the Steal rally. And at the very bottom, in all caps, it said,
We'll be wild.
We'll be wild. And I was like, I'm a little wild still. I'm a Christian, but I'm a little wild. And so, I really wanted to go represent my family and my posterity, my children and grandchildren, and at least protest. I wanted to make sure that the congressmen and the senators knew that we had their backs in regards to taking a good hard look at the questions, the anomalies, the Fulton County stuff, the straight 200,000 votes for Biden, just the things that were brought to light before they certified the election. I wanted them to take an honest look at it. If they came back in 10 days or whatever and said, hey, it was legit, then I would give them the benefit of the doubt. But I had some very serious questions about
I get in a lot of arguments with people. I used to co-host a show. I was the conservative voice on the show, and my 2 colleagues, one was very extremely liberal, one was middle of the road. And we would get into arguments over this all the time, and I feel that the election was stolen. And one of the reasons why, and I'm sure you folks will agree, is because apparently at 2 o'clock in the morning, the ballot fairy showed up and wound up all these votes started to accumulate. Now, you read some of the comments on that, and they say, well, it's fine, it's normal that happens, and sometimes it was a late count. Right, exactly. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't feel it was a late count.
And not just one place, but in like 5 swing states.
In 5 swing states.
Come on,
exactly.
give me a break.
Closely
All at the same
contested
time.
as well, like 10,000, 11,000 vote margin in these small states, which it doesn't take very much cheating to swing the election one way or another when there's that small of a margin in those states.
And also another thing, and you guys were kind of delving into it when I read your backstories, is basically I think that the pandemic had a big hand in this. China causing the pandemic in the fact that they wanted to get rid of Trump because Trump has always had a strong stance against China, and they're like, well, what can we do? Well, we'll have this virus in Wuhan get loose, and it'll affect the world, and it'll keep people inside. And also, one thing that proliferated is basically mail-in ballots. the mail-in ballot thing. And it didn't happen this time. Why? Because there was no pandemic. But it did happen then. And it was just very fishy. And I was telling my partner, I go, you will not, and Dee would paint me into the corner, and I go, you will not see it in our generation. But they will find out. You are younger guys. You might see it as your old men in a rocking chair, but they will come to the point where they found out that election was fixed.
We're already seeing it in Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
they're
are.
already the Fulton County stuff. I mean, they're already pretty much exonerating Rudy Giuliani. And so like we're already seeing that. I don't have to be an old man in a rocking chair to see that totally vindicated in my lifetime.
They seized the ballots, I believe, in Maricopa County too, didn't they? Last week, something happened in Maricopa.
I'm hearing
County
that,
in the last
man.
few days. I don't
They're
know.
turning it
exactly.
around so much so that
I will say this: Trump isn't a fool, and he knows that before he leaves that White House, he has to fix two things so that he doesn't go to jail forever for the rest of his life or his family. He has to fix the 2020 election and confirm that it was no kidding, 100% stolen. And then he has to fix the record on January 6th, because those are two huge hot button items that when he leaves the White House, they will immediately indict him for. And he knows that. So within his tenure as president, he's going to do everything within his legal power to make sure that the 2020 election is exposed as a fraud without any doubt, and then make sure that the insurrection was a lobster trap from the get-go, and that Shane and I are not domestic terrorists, and neither is he.
No, you're not. And I just want to ask you guys a question. Do you feel frustrated that you watch Antifa, you watch BLM in these anti-ICE riots, and the riots, that they get a pass, but J6 didn't, Proud Boys didn't? Do you get frustrated over that?
I would say absolutely, and more so now they're taking care of it. I feel like they're addressing it when they do something out of line, they arrest them for assaulting federal officers. But my biggest problem with it is, I did some time with some men who I consider heroes. I'm talking like Rob, Army Ranger, Jeff McKellop, Green Beret Special Forces, Jessica Watkins, Ranger, many Marines, many
As a
regular
matter of
Army.
fact, I've invited my nephew Todd Curry to watch, former Army Ranger, Lieutenant Colonel retired, so hopefully he's watching tonight.
Rangers lead the way.
Yep.
And the thing with it is, though, is that these men offered up life, limb, mental health, suffered through PTSD, blown up by IEDs and all that, and then you let these dirtbag communist socialists go on what they did through the whole summer of 2020, and then you come after these men who the government trained and who served this country honorably, and then you label them domestic terrorists, and then you come after them with the full weight and force of the government. That's what pisses me off. I'm okay with what they did to
What's
me.
also crazy is also these liberals. We have a segment that we do. Mark White, if you're fans of Spin Doctors, Mark White was the former bass player in the Spin Doctors, is one of our co-hosts, and we're going to bring in Mark. If you want to talk about the clip, gentlemen, the mission and control is going to be Asset 1, and white people are inferior.
White people, y'all have an inferiority complex. It has become so deep-seated and embedded into your genetic makeup that you all think that you're superior over everyone when you're not.
It's kind of crazy.
So you
What
see,
was that?
Superior to what?
these guys are complaining that the left is attacking them, and the people on the right, the people on the left get a free pass, and the people on the right get attacked. I'm having problems. I'm hearing myself repeat. I'm just like, but imagine if she was a white woman and she said that about black people.
Yeah.
That would be a
People would be flipping out.
Yeah, and it's just it's amazing how we've become divided with that.
You know what, though? I want to hop in here and say she might actually have a point, because of the amount of conditioning that white men in America have had to suffer through for the last 50-plus years, that we have to suffer from white guilt, that we have to, abide by all kinds of norms and, social terms in order to get along, when there are people within our country, whether they're any kind of color, that are causing serious problems for America. And I have to be called an Islamophobe or some kind of racist when I want to call out a crime. You know, like, so there's a real problem at stake, and I think because we want to get along, we're Christians, we're good folks, we don't want to hurt anybody, that's actually being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Political correctness is a huge weapon. And I think so, to her point, in an inverse argument, I would say that there is an inferiority complex actually happening. And I think to a degree it's been taken advantage of so that we can let all of these problems fester and grow, and no one's willing to call it out because you don't want to be called a racist, you don't want to be called a phobia, whatever.
It's a fear.
It is. There's something to it. And the second you start to limit what I can say, whether you're going to call me a racist or a Nazi or an anti-Semite or whatever it is, that's a First Amendment violation, and it's a problem. And a lot of people get away with it because we're too afraid about, you know, not being nice enough.
Yeah, we're too afraid to call it out. It is a right, and we've been, especially with the shaming and the cancel culture has been very prevalent on holding us all down on what we can say and what we can't say, and it's starting to turn. I think the tide is starting to turn on that, and I hope that we're turning the corner.
Well, I
on
think
this.
that's also why people loved Trump, because he didn't care.
Yeah.
You remember when he ran in 2016, he would just
Yep.
say what was on his mind, and we're like, yes, finally!
And we will be right back with Red, Right, and True.
You've worked hard and saved, but inflation and increased money supply are eroding your buying power. Protect and grow your wealth with physical gold and silver. Sound Money. With a Sound Money wallet, your wealth stays in your control. Buy fractionally, vault securely, ship directly, and instantly liquidate your gold and silver at the highest buyback price in the industry. Real money, real ownership. Visit tafwsoundmoney.info or scan the QR code and start securing your financial future today.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.
How's it going, y'all? I'm Bill Clinton. Now instead of a poke, you're getting a smack. What have I done?
Bookman, you're up.
It's ma'am. I can't just tell you this stuff.
Hey, I got hairy legs. They turn blonde in the summer.
Because we're gonna treat you like family.
I'm pretty sure I'm a woman.
No, you're not, Steve. Oh!
Do you like camping? The entire city is your campground.
There is no law. Anything goes. It's a Diddy cruise.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable.
Indicted?
Supersede.
Superseding indictment, yeah, 5 times. So at one point in time, I had 45 charges. But when I went to trial, 3 of them stuck, which was a simple assault, a robbery charge, and the 1512 charge. Now, the simple assault is ridiculous. I pushed someone who pushed someone who pushed someone. And,
Was that the incident against the door?
well, this is the tunnel situation, which my lawyer didn't bring up the fact that we have video evidence of someone who observes me looking into the tunnel to check out what's going on, and then decides to push me into the tunnel so that I enter, and then proceeds to disappear behind the police line and then reemerge hours later from another
I saw
place
the
in
video. You were
Capitol.
nowhere near there.
So it's just pretty ridiculous. But then in addition to that, the robbery charge is written so that it only counts on maritime waters, which is ridiculous. And it was only until my sentencing that my defense attorney found that out when the prosecution laughed in his face. But the 1512 charge is important because that charge is the obstruction of an official proceeding charge. It carried up to 20 years. And the reason why it was chosen is because it was cooked up in the Enron case, and it has to do with witness and evidence tampering. Somehow, they claim that by us showing up to a certification of electoral college result, late, by the way, because it was over before I even showed up, qualifies for a 1512 charge. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because every single federal judge who convicted a January 6er of this ignored the fact that it was blatantly obvious that it was unconstitutionally applied. When this charge gets challenged and taken up to the Supreme Court throws it out. So every federal judge convicts a January 6er of a crime they know that they didn't commit, which is a crime.
Yeah.
So every federal judge is now guilty. They have perjured themselves. They can be disbarred, and if Trump really wanted to clean things up in D.C., make that a problem, hold them accountable, clean house, and then appoint actual constitutional judges so we can finally see justice in America. That's how you fix this.
Very good. And Shane, now what did they charge you with?
I had the same 1512. I also had multiple assaults on federal officers, destruction of government property, being armed while on federal property, which was 2 tomahawks that I had in my backpack.
So cool, though.
Yeah, I noticed you had the axe. Why did you have the axe?
Well, they had several rallies post-election, right, November 3rd, and before January 6th, they had about 2 or 3 rallies in D.C., right? And so at one of those rallies, one of the Proud Boys got stabbed, and maybe 2 Proud Boys got stabbed, and they told us, hey, Antifa and BLM has a large presence here, and I also know that D.C. is very dangerous, has a high crime rate, high murder rate, high robbery rate, and so I wasn't going to go into a city like that and not have some way to protect myself. And, I mean, I just don't like to go anywhere without some type of protection. So D.C. is obviously illegal to carry a gun, but I do think it's wise to be able to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And we were told they were going to try to separate us from the crowd and harm people.
Right. And you had, I'm sorry.
you're fine.
And you had tech gear for pretty much the same reason, right?
So I wore the same uniform that I deployed to Afghanistan in all 3 times to not only symbolize that I had already invested sweat and blood equity into the outcome of my country, but I also had a bunch of Ranger first responder gear on, which was like tourniquets, gauze, chest compression seals, splints, you name it. And the big circle that you can see on my chest, if you pull up my name and type in January 6th, you'll see a photo of me smiling, which is not a bad photo. It's actually, they kind of did me a favor, but there's a big red artificial circle around blunt-tipped clothing scissors that are designed so if there's an emergency, I can cut your jacket off and I can get to your wound and pack it so you live. But they claimed that was a dangerous weapon, and they try to use that against me.
Yeah, and also you had the weight belt on, and the weight belt was from being, what was, I think that was something about being attacked or somebody that was
so
attacked.
I had a weightlifter's belt on because I figured, okay, my diaphragm is exposed, my plate carrier can protect me, but if I get stabbed in the gut, that leather would get in the way.
Right.
When I go for my first hearing, the prosecution says, and he also had a WWE weightlifting championship belt on at the Capitol.
I read that. Where would you get that from?
On championship belt from the WWE.
Here you go, brother.
Lego set.
Yeah. Let me tell you something,
What's
brother.
wrong with you?
I thought I saw you in the ring.
Exactly, yeah. I had to have been an absolute nut job to get dressed up like a clown that much that day, but here we are.
And you know what? I didn't have the honor of serving in the military. I almost joined the Seabees. That's another story for another day. But my family, upstate New York, very military family. Like I said, mom was in the Rangers. My brother was a subman. A couple other people. And I go up there and we go hunting, or we'll go out to the woods or whatever. And because of that, I mean, we're packed with everything.
Of course.
If the world would end by the time we get up by the pond, we're going to live.
That's right. That's the American way, though.
Yeah, it is. It is.
There's
So
nothing you should apologize for.
Yeah, nothing. No, and that is totally, absolutely true.
And that's what our enemies hate.
Yeah.
The fact that the end of the world can happen and you're not going to give up and you can handle it and you can survive and live on and then teach the next generation about the constitutional republic and Jesus, they hate that about you.
Yeah, and that's what they wanted to, and that's why they want to take our rights away. And like I said, talking about rocking the boat, the owner wants to rock the boat. We have asset number 2. Mark, do you want to discuss asset number 2 coming up?
As soon as I see what it is, I don't know what you guys, how you arranged it.
I'm sorry? He wants to see it.
I said, I don't know how you arranged it. So I don't
Oh,
know
okay,
what-
yeah, that's going to be the woman talking about rocking the boat. Control Center, if you want to play that for us.
Stop being afraid to rock the boat. Stop being afraid of making people uncomfortable. The boat should be rocked. People should be uncomfortable. The whole reason that we're still stuck in this mess is because the majority of people are not uncomfortable enough, especially the privileged ones, to not care about what's going on, to say, oh, I don't like to deal with politics, I'm trying to protect my mental health, is a privilege. You need to make people uncomfortable.
So you see what we're dealing with, right? We're dealing with people who are just complete bullies. And they just get on these things and they have no idea that when it actually, the shit actually hits the fan, they'll be the first ones running under a car, scared out of their minds.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're up against. It's insane to me.
And they'll
It's
use the
mostly women.
excuse that they're protecting their mental acuity.
Yeah, and they got and 2 of them got killed because they were trying to protect their mental acuity, realizing that there was no consequences, and basically blood is on the hands of the police departments in those Democratic states, Minneapolis, Minneapolis, because basically what they did was they did not let the police keep these people away from ICE doing their job. They stepped in, like a young lady like that thinks, oh, there's no consequences for liberals, and they wound up finding out that there actually, there are consequences for liberals, and they found that out. And it's, and I hope it gets through to these people that they need to realize that no, there's a new sheriff in town, and they're not going to be coddled anymore. And I tell you guys, I mean, you went there for your constitutional rights, and they came down on you. And also an interesting thing on J6, I had an acquaintance that was in the FBI, and when they look into somebody, the field office makes the recommendation to Quantico that we want to look in on this people or this group, and they need to be investigated. For the first time ever, Quantico went to the field offices and said, here's this list of people, and we want you to look into them. And basically, because it was a directive by the government to crack down, because what happened, in my opinion, is that the people spoke. And they were so used to getting away with what they got away with, and the people spoke, and it scared the hell out of them.
Well, it brings us back to what we were talking about before. The political correctness garbage is something that we totally bucked the system of in terms of January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've done a lot to us, American government, that we're really ashamed of. But if you steal our election and no one showed up to January 6th, then we definitely don't have a country anymore. But because over 2 million people descended on our nation's government and our capital for January 6th, that let the enemies of our country know, oh, wait, our job isn't done. And America totally is willing to fight for what they've got still.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I mean when we're talking about political correctness and stuff like that. It is a programming that a lot of people are very vacant to, and they receive. I think it has a lot to do with, parenting and poor parenting. And that woman that we just saw the video of, man, it's because she has terrible parents who never told her that there's definitely consequences for your actions and to respect authority, and that the greatest authority that we have comes from God. And I can go on and on and on about that. But in terms of our government, the authority is supposed to be flipped. Our rights don't come from the top down. Our rights come from the Creator, but we give permission to the government to serve us. And that's why our nation is the best. It's the most radical document in human history. Our nation is held back by its own laws so that we don't have to experience tyranny by its own people. Read the preamble of our Constitution. but it's only held at bay by the people with the attitude that is American. So political correctness is a weapon to destroy that attitude, and in terms of the people that were at January 6th, it failed on us, and it still failed on us even though they threw us through the ringer for 4 years.
Yeah, so you guys were incarcerated for 4 years? Yeah, it's just a shame what they did on that. And why did they feel, really quickly before we go to break, why do you feel that they kept you in there for that long? They thought you were a threat?
2 reasons. One, they wanted us to break and become the monsters that they said we were. They knew we weren't evil men. They knew we weren't terrorists. So they wanted us to become the monsters that they said they were. But then 2, they wanted to figure out, if we can do this and get away with it, we can do it again and again. They didn't come down on us for us. They came down on us as hard as they did to intimidate y'all to not step up when January 6th's sequel comes around.
And we'll touch more on that when Red, Right, and True continues in 1 moment.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just 2 entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW. Making travel great again.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
I'm sure you guys remember the platinum single, Justice for All, with Donald Trump and the J6 Prison Choir. Well, get ready for round 2. We're coming out with Anthem of the Free with High Res and the J6 Prison Choir. It's coming out now. It's pre-sale until December 19th when it drops. Get yours on all platforms, Google Play, Apple iTunes. Get it. It's going to be hot.
Justice for all, our voices ring. The anthem of the free.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see. A symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Welcome back to Red, Right, and True. I'm Joe Curry. We have Keith Fitz.
Yo!
We have Mark White out there. We have Rob, and we have Shane. And Rob, I got a question for you. Lego Man. How did you get that? How did you get that nickname?
This is probably the best part of the story. So when the FBI decided to arrest me on the last day of school, I was a high school history teacher up in Pittsburgh.
Yes, you are.
They decided to raid my apartment, and in my possession at the time of my arrest was none other than a Lego model kit of the United States Capitol. So they act like they find the holy grail of January 6th. It's the worst Seinfeld episode you've ever heard of in your entire life, and they see the Lego set, and then they see that I was also at the Capitol, and they think, oh my gosh, he must have planned all of January 6th with his Legos They call me the architect of the insurrection. It's in my court documents, and they literally brought this up in front of the judge as convicting evidence. For
God,
me.
am I thinking they'd have chutes and ladders? You would still be in there.
Yeah, Lincoln Logs would have been, the
Lincoln
cherry on
Logs,
top.
he's a
You should have had the
patriot.
Lego Batman with it or something.
Well, okay, yeah, so you bring up a good point. So the funny thing about that, too, is the Babylon Bee did an article about how right next to the Capitol Lego set, there was a Lego set of Hogwarts Castle, and it was suspected that me and Voldemort were going to storm Hogwarts right after I was done with the Capitol. So that was a lot of fun.
Wave your magic wand, and all of a sudden, poof, everything will be right already.
Wave your magic wand, you'll end up in a communist country.
Esther,
Unfortunately.
now, what was your life growing up? What was your life like growing up?
Dude, it was awesome. I grew up out west. I'm from Reno, Nevada. Sleeping under the stars, with my friends, out hunting, camping, fighting, fishing, backpacking, you name it. And I joined the Army at 17. I grew up 45 minutes away from Lake Tahoe. So I had a great childhood, man. I brought down my first big game, antelope pronghorn at 12 years old.
Wow.
I killed some mule deer, so long range hunting. The way that y'all hunt out east is crazy. It's like an arcade. We have to like track and sometimes low crawl and take a shot that's over 500 meters, for us to kill anything out west. But
What kind of weapon you bring on big game like that?
I killed my first big game with a 7 Win Mag at the time with a 4-powered scope. It was
Nice.
a 374 meter shot.
Nice.
It was crazy, but so that was fun. So all that led to me excelling as a ranger, and being from Reno, Nevada, high altitude. When we were hiking through the mountains of Afghanistan, I was like a mountain goat going through there. When all these city boys are like really huffing and puffing, I'm like, all right, we got this.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's like all my family upstate. They excelled because they're all farm boys.
Exactly.
It's like I remember my nephew Todd. He goes, the drill sergeant came up to me, looked in my face, and just started bawling me out. I go, I went Dada. So that's kind of the you used it up there. Now Shane, what was you had an interesting upbringing. Tell us about your upbringing.
Yeah, I went to private school, All Saints Episcopal School, when I was younger, till about the 6th grade, and then my life took an unusual turn when I found out I was adopted when I was like 12 years old. Really took a dark turn. I felt like kind of like my biological family had basically said that I was not worthy of keeping and I was a throwaway. I felt like that's what my mom said by getting rid of me, and then I felt betrayed by my adopted family that they had let me believe that my life was reality when really it was a lie to me, and I felt kind of betrayed. I know these were very immature reactions to the situation, but it's taken me many years to work through that and deal with that. And but I turned down a dark path and started getting in a lot of trouble, skipping school. Eventually ended up in juvenile prison. Did 3 years in there. Got out when I was 19, and when I was 20 years old, my stepdad had been to jail twice for abusing my mom, and I came home one night, and he threatened to kill me. Later, he shot at me with a 20-gauge shotgun, and I shot him. After I ran, I called 911, and he came after me again with the shotgun. I shot him 11 times and killed him as a 20-year-old young man. So I had an eventful childhood, but then had a hard time really coping with the adoption and the identity crisis that I went through as a young man, and then I had a lot of guilt and shame from killing my stepdad. And so I turned down a really dark path of alcohol and drugs and women just to try to to calm this storm and fill this void that I had in my heart. And it almost killed me, and I ended up in and out of adult prison 3 different times. Gave my life to Jesus Christ in 2016. That's when I got interested in politics and watched President Trump get persecuted and prosecuted through his first term, and then really became passionate about the unborn, and then voted in the first election that I was eligible for or interested in 2020. And so that was kind of a very unusual path to chart to conservatism and Christianity. But
Now you also met your biological father from, I think you met your biological father.
yeah, I have not met him yet. We were Facebook friends, and I found out through Ancestry DNA that he is my biological father. We have yet to meet, but one day.
Where is he?
He's in Dallas Fort Worth. He's there. So
Let me know if I can help you with that, because I will.
I have
be
met
there
the
for you.
rest of my biological family, though, my grandmother and my cousins and everybody else. So it's been cool. It's been a nice addition to an already large family. So
Wonderful. Fantastic. That's great. Also, we have another clip coming up, and that is going to be, and I love this one. Mark, this one, Asset 3 Control Center, men have to look handsome.
I
Men
think we
have
should
to look
start holding men to the same standards we hold women to. Your eyebrows are bushy? Okay, pluck them. Your growing body hair? Shave it. He's wearing sweatpants in public? That's not masculine. He should be wearing overalls.
If women have to look pretty, then men should have to look handsome.
And that's called feminism.
No, it is not.
Overalls is feminism?
As in the words of, if I may paraphrase one Bugs Bunny, you're a metal case. Mark, what say you?
Well, once again, we have that crazy. What she's talk. Why am I? Why is? Here we go. She's talking and she does that after everything. They're just arrogant, condescending people. It's really amazing. Like, and you're talking into a camera, and I always wonder, who are you talking to? Like, what is going through your mind while you're saying nonsense? Absolutely no sense.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Yeah, I've woken up and seen a woman looking at me like that. It's not pleasant.
we don't demand. I don't demand that the woman that I'm dating. I don't require that her eyebrows be up. You know, it's nice to have a girl that takes care of herself, but it's not like it's not mandatory. I wouldn't mandate it that you actually absolutely have to do it. It's kind
Well,
of,
the
kind
flaw
of creepy.
there is mixing feminism with femininity.
Right.
You know, and masculine men with like the toxic masculinity.
Right.
You know, there's a difference. And I think what we're seeing is because of failed parenting and the broken home, which is the devil's total goal, you see the worst ends of both spectrum.
And the whole thing about toxic masculinity, you're a teacher. Are they trying to get toxic, masculinity? You know, what toxic masculinity is football. It's the military, where you need, it's sport, it's survival. But the libs are also trying to get toxic masculinity and out of the schools. And did you, when you were a teacher, did you see that?
100%. And I mean, again, I don't know how this came about, but the theme of this show, I guess, is political correctness, because they set the terms, and if you're outside of these communist terms, you're the bad guy, regardless of what it is. And so I've realized through teaching that they don't like testosterone, the chemical compound within all of our brains that makes you want to fight, makes you want to be strong, makes you want to cope with stress, and makes you want to persevere through it. So it's like a biological chemical warfare happening through words. And it's taking place in the classroom of all places. And so, yes, I did notice that. There's 100% a war on men, especially, but in kids in general, there's barely any recess. There's no violence. And as a man, you got to understand how to wield violence, because otherwise you end up shooting a school if you haven't been able to use violence correctly, whether it's jiu-jitsu or wrestling or football or whatever it is. I mean, so you end up having these kids that are bottled up chemically, and then they explode because they have no idea how to be a human and use the emotions that are given.
It's just a male thing. When my dad died when I was 6. I have an older half brother, but I was pretty much raised on my own. I was raised by women, okay, and I curse, I drink whiskey. They did a good job making a man out of me. But one of the things was I used to let kids bully me, and this is where things were back in the 70s. The teacher called my mom and said, "Look, Joe is getting bullied, and you need to talk to him to fight back." And my mom said, "You need to fight back." Now, my brother was a amateur boxer, and my mom goes, "We're going to send you up to the farm next summer, and you're going to learn how to box, and you're going to learn how to fight back." It's something that it's a skill, not to be a bully, but to keep from being bullies. You're going to be bullied. I don't have to tell you guys this. You're going to be bullied through your life. You're going to be bullied by your boss. You're going to be bullied by people that don't agree with you. You need to fight back, not in a violent way, but you need to show that you're not going to be pushed around. And I think they're grooming young men, boys, not to fight back in the simple interest that they're going to overtake them and have this agenda where they're just going to walk all over them.
Agreed.
I think earlier I was talking to Sarah Carpenter earlier about what the definition of peacekeeper is to me, and I believe you have to be capable of extreme violence to be a true peacekeeper, because anybody can say, "Oh, we're just going to be pacifists. We're not going to do anything. Just take what you want and do whatever you want," as opposed to somebody who is meek, who is power under control, right? And applying that appropriately, being able to keep the peace and maneuver your way through a situation, and know that you can resort to violence as a last resort to protect the people that you're
as the last resort, but sometimes it needs to be there. Once we talked about consequences, it's consequences to your actions. Schoolyard,
And your inaction.
Schoolyard, yeah. You know, and people, and that's the problem with a lot of people nowadays. They don't understand that there's consequences to their actions. They're finding out. Two people found out in the Midwest. You know, yeah, it's interesting.
Did you fight back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, I fight back. It's something that I've done. That's something that I've done now. Matter of fact, I changed my avatar on Facebook to a honey badger, because that's what I feel I am. I'm getting bitten, stricken, and I'm like shaking it off and going back for more. So yeah, I've been learned. My mom raised me to be tough. I had no choice. I grew up. My dad died when I was 6. I was taking care of myself when I was 7. So I'm used to that. And Red, Right, and True, we'll be back in 1 minute.
Have you noticed your money just doesn't stretch like it used to? Your paycheck feels lighter, and your savings aren't growing. The culprits? Inflation and increased money supply. They've both been quietly eating away at your purchasing power for years. Today, the dollar's value has dropped significantly. You feel it every time you spend money on goods and services. Back in 1965, $1 or an ounce of silver could buy you a gallon of milk. Fast forward to today. That same dollar barely buys a couple of coffee creamers, while an ounce of silver would get you 8 gallons of milk. Gold and silver have held their value for centuries. If you had 2,500 ounces of silver back in 1965, you could buy a brand new Ford Mustang. Today, 2,500 ounces of silver would buy you 2 Mustangs. Similarly, in the year 2000, 628 ounces of gold would buy a new $170,000 home. Today, 628 ounces would buy you a $2,500,000 home. The problem? 95% of Americans don't own physical gold or silver. They think it's too complicated and too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We offer a membership program that allows you to buy gold or silver with as little as $1. You can buy fractional amounts, safely vault them, or have them delivered to your doorstep, and you can liquidate them whenever you want at the highest buyback price in the industry. Ready to protect your wealth and keep your purchasing power? Scan the QR code or go to tafw.soundmoney.com to learn more.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won, it's not about what party, it's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island.
It's me, Joe the Box. And I'm John the Blanket with the America First Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about. The Fred Rubino Podcast coming to you from the America First Warehouse.
Welcome back to the America First Warehouse. What we're still doing? Fighting! Every day, all day long.
Welcome to the Patriots Podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse in Long Island, New York.
Shane Jenkins here with another episode of Liberty's Cage.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, Red, Right, and True.
We are streaming live on America First Media and Television app.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
The America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Welcome back to Red, Right, and True. I'm your host, Joe Curry. We have Keith Fitz, we have got Mark, we have got Shane, and we have got, Rob. What am I doing? Rob, and we got Mark out there. And basically what I want to do is you guys have a lot of interesting things going on. Shane, you wanted to reform the prison system?
Yes, sir. I started a foundation while I was incarcerated for January 6th, about 2 years in. I came up with the idea. I feel like God gave me the idea for this foundation, and it is Stand in the Gap, but it was to help January 6 people whose needs were not being met. There were several different groups that were helping the J6 community, but I felt like there was not really good stewardship and no accountability from those people. So I felt like we could structure an entity that would manage and steward the people's money that were donated better. And so we helped reunite 75 families while I was in through, once we finally got visits. We were denied visits the first 2 years, but after we got them after 2 years, typically the mom was at home raising the kids alone, and the dad had been locked up for those 2 years, so she's very strapped. She wasn't able to fly to D.C. for a Friday, which was typically a work day and school day visit, for 1 hour and pay for a hotel and flights and everything. So we started raising money and flying people, paying for Ubers, airfare, and places to stay for them. That's how it started. And then now, my long-term vision is to reform the prison system, but currently we are the primary organization serving the January 6th community, whether it's through emergency funding, or we're paying for attorneys for the ones that are unpardoned, so we can get pardons for those men and women, or all those men. I guess it is men and women. And then we're also we are basically just helping anybody who's struggling mentally, emotionally from the scars that we received through the solitary confinement, or anything that we went through in there.
Fantastic. Now, you wrote a book. Tell us about the book, and also tell us about the cover. There's something that that I saw interesting in the cover. So, what's the name of the book?
So the book is called Still There, and it catalogs 3.5 years of my time behind bars and 41 short stories. It's a pretty dense book, but the cover is actually painted by my fiance, who's also a January 6er. The book is called Still There. It's available on Amazon now. And essentially, it's called that for a myriad of reasons. There's a part of us that will always be still there in the jail cell, because a piece of us did die back then. But it's essentially called that because when I first entered the D.C. Gulag, and they were singing the national anthem at 9 p.m., I started screaming those two words. I got a little trouble at first, but when I explained that my hope in my God and my faith that our nation will be renewed, and that no matter what they throw at us, I believe in those things, and that my hope and faith and trust is still there, it caught like wildfire, and now we sing that all the time in the national anthem. And so the book is available. You mentioned the Hopium Den, if you wanted to hear about that. There's a whole chapter dedicated to that. There's actually a couple chapters about the Hopium Dens in there, but I did everything I could to put it all out on the page and move on and heal, and then leave a path for other January 6ers to follow so that they could heal too.
Wonderful.
I got a question.
Yes.
How did you guys feel after Trump won this time?
That we were right all along, baby!
Yes, we were.
I'll never forget being in federal prison, watching the election through my little bitty cell window, sticking my head part way out of the cell and watching like 2:30 in the morning. They're like, we're calling Pennsylvania for President Trump, and President Trump's going to be the next president of the United States. And man, I'll never forget, man, that everybody in the dorm was on, J6, you're going home. And I just had tears pouring down my face, and I'm doing my happy dance in the cell. And man, I'll never forget that.
That was another amazing thing. I was doing the podcast I used to do on Tuesday. I've done it Tuesdays for 12 years. So we get done, and I'm making dinner, and I've got the results coming in, and I'm like, he is winning the Electoral College. I go, my God, he's going to win. He's gonna win. I go, it beyond amazing, because basically and you know how slanted the news media are,
right?
And
how
how
real,
And I want to bring something about the national anthem. You have a hit song from that, so tell us about that.
We do. We actually in jail we recorded "Justice for All." And we sang the anthem every night, and Rob added the "Still There" to it, like you mentioned. But we did that for every night. And I'm not going to lie, I did get tired of it at times. It was exhausting, but we did it, and they heard about it on the outside. They had us call into a recording studio in Nashville. We recorded it 6 different times, with twice in the cell, twice in the day room, twice in the TV room, just for different acoustics. They took it. They reached out to President Trump and said, "Hey, would you like to help these guys? They love you. They're not going to turn their back on you, and would you like to help them?" And he was like, "Absolutely." So they took him, and they got him doing the Pledge of Allegiance. We sing the first verse of the anthem, then he does the first verse of the pledge, and on through the song. It went platinum in about 6 weeks. It knocked Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift off the top of the charts.
Good.
But we also have another song out now called "The Anthem of the Free." It's with a rapper named High Res, and we had the opportunity to go to Miami and record that at Criterion Studios, which is, if you look up that studios, I mean, they have like the
Legendary.
Eagles recorded "Stairway to Heaven" there, the Bee Gees recorded there, Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake all recorded there. So, but Yeah, it's been such an insane journey, man.
Been a wild ride.
Now, we were talking about the vote. Mark, it's going to be Asset 4 coming up in Mission Control. Basically, this woman says that there should be a maximum age for voting. A maximum age for voting. Would you believe this? Mr. Control, if you could put up Asset 4, please.
What upsets me is that most of the people that are rooting for this current administration will not be here to feel the effects of the choices that they're making. I feel like there should be an age maximum for voting, and that might upset quite a bit of people, but if you're not going to be alive to feel the after effects of these decisions, you should not be allowed to make them.
Oh my God.
Man, she
Where do I
thought she
find
was
you?
cooking.
Anyway, I'm 63, so how much time do I have to keep voting?
She can't be that stupid. Well, obviously,
But she is that stupid.
She just pulled it off.
To counter argue though, I don't think you should be able to vote until your prefrontal cortex is fully developed. So maybe she should be able to vote.
Yeah, and when do you finally get like a 23 or something like
25,
that?
I
It
think,
finally
something like that,
settles in. Yeah,
Or it could be like Starship Troopers. You have to actually be in the military, then you can vote.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that too. I like that.
Yeah.
But here we go. She wants to have her feelings acknowledged over what's true and what should be.
Right.
You know, the older we are, we're voting also for our kids and our grandchildren and
For
all that
posterity,
too.
yeah, for sure.
So we are still going to feel it. We may not be there to feel it, but our kids will, our grandchildren will.
It's your chance
Yeah.
to impact the future.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, let's take a look at the forefathers that set up the Constitution.
They weren't going to see it.
Yeah, which was going to be 250 years ago, which is still based on things now in the new millennia.
Legacy voting, I would say.
Yeah. I'm going to just wrap up with some plugs. And gentlemen, tell us about your book again. Plug your book again.
Yeah, so my book is called Still There. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on LegoManProductions.com with 2 G's, all lowercase and no space. You'll find my production company, the movies we're working on right now. But the book is also for sale, called Still There.
Very good, very good. Sheen, plug that. You have the foundation, therealj6.com?
If you go to standinthegap.foundation, if you want to join alongside us and stand in the gap and help the Jan 6 community put their lives back together after the mental and emotional trauma that they suffered for being political prisoners for 4 years, go to standinthegap.foundation. You can donate there, $5, $10, $20 help, but we'd love to have your support.
Fantastic. We'd like to thank a couple of people. The American First Warehouse Venue and
That's right.
Production Studio.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. And it is the home of America First Media and Television. Check that out. Also, our affiliates, TAFW Sound Money Wallet at tafsoundmoney.com. My Patriot Travel at mypatriottravel.com. My Pillow, the My Pillow guy at mypillow.com. You could dial 1-800-889-2067. Tally Honey Gold, Maha Gold at tallyhoneygold.com /TAFW. Down the America First Media and Television app. Go to the App Store, go to Google Play, or go to afshows.com. Also, Mr. Keith Fitz has a business that is very patriotic. Tell us about that.
My business, we sell knives, swords, we sell stainless steel jewelry. We also have the Patriot flags, and our company is called Keys Cutlery and Keys Love Jewelry. We're located inside Time Warp Relic Warehouse at 2860 Middle Country Road in Lake Grove, open 7 days a week. And if not, you can find us by our business names online, keyscutlery.com and keyslovejewelry.com.
Fantastic. Mark White, do you have any place they can find you?
Facebook, and if you need a bass player, here I am. Conservative bass player.
Conservative. Now we have a couple about a minute or so left, and one thing I didn't get to, I'd like to do it really quick. The religion, how religion has helped you both. And I think it's amazing. Just really a quick wrap up on how religion has helped you.
Yeah, I can now personally relate to Job, Jonah, Joseph from the Bible. And like David, I can run to my strong tower now and understand what that means in its entirety because of my experience. So Christ is my king, and I'm proud to be a Christian.
Right. Sean?
Yeah, you know, Jesus Christ is the hope, man. Many days I would have not made it through what we went through if I didn't have hope in the King of Kings, and Jesus Christ is that hope. So if you're lost, turn to Him.
My own personal experience is when you were down and you were alone and you were at the bottom, you pray to Jesus and you tell Him, I will do all the work. I'll put in all the work. I'll do everything that needs to be done. And I went through a painful divorce. I had to sell the house I lived in, but and I went through open heart surgery. And you just pray to the Lord, and you just tell Him, guide me. I will do all the work, and it does help. So, guys, thank you so much for being on with us. Bonnie and the Patriot Box will be here next week. And we have Stevie GB, a very funny comic that'll be on with us. And and thank you for such a great time with Red, Right, and True. You got any games you want to plug?
Right now, everything I have booked, I'm going to be putting up on my Facebook page under Keyfitz, KEYFITZ, like zebra.
Right. And is there one quick place they can find you again?
Yeah, LegoManProductions.com with 2 G's, or LegoMan Productions on Instagram, and then LegoMan Films with 2 G's on Twitter.
Very good. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much for everybody watching. Good night. This was Red, Right, and True.
God bless.
A beacon for all to see, a symbol of hope, a symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free in the America.